Experience Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania in 3D.
Scott Lang, you have a daughter. You're an Avenger. But out here, you're out of your league.
On February 17th.
Kang's a monster. He can shatter existence.
An Avenger
I don't care what he can do. I'm getting us home.
must face a conqueror.
You may not want her to watch this.
I'm sorry, Cassie.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Experience it in 3D. February 17th. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Dive with Jamie Stein, where we take a deep dive look at all things reality TV, pop culture, and the world at large. I'm an intuitive and an empath, which means I pick up on the thoughts, feelings, and energy percolating in other people and the world around me. I believe there is meaning waiting to be found at every turn if you're willing to see it. So join me as we dismantle everything from trash TV to high spiritual concepts and learn more about ourselves, each other, and how we're all connected. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Deep Dive with Jamie Stein. I'm so excited about today's guest, who I'm sure a lot of you listening to this already know. I am here with podcast extraordinaire, comedian, writer, and I would go so far as to say intuitive in her own right, Lara Marie Schoenhals. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, it's so good to be here. It's the first time I've ever been introduced as an intuitive, and I'll take it.
Well, you know that I feel that you tend to tap into some sort of field, I feel like, in your podcast, where you do end up channeling information that comes to fruition.
Yeah, that's happened quite a bit, actually. And so I'm just excited to see where it leads from here.
Yeah.
It's like you either have the gift or you don't, right?
It's true. And I mean, I know you're somewhat joking, but it is funny because it's like people a lot of times will ask me, well, how do I develop my intuition, or, how do I sort of move forward with this? And I do think a huge part of the answer is that you have to be willing in a way to take it seriously, and you have to be willing to trust the information that comes, and you have to just be willing to own it for yourself. So, I do feel that you tend to tap into things. I know people who listen to your podcast already know this, but you guys did. And just for anyone who doesn't know Lara already, she hosts what I consider to be the definitive Vanderpump Rules podcast, Sexy Unique podcast. Run, don't walk to it if you haven't already checked it out. And that podcast also kind of has different iterations and alter egos where you'll recap other shows. So you did 2 seasons of Real Housewives of New Jersey as tough Sicilian bitches. Right now you're recapping the first season of Rock of Love as insatiable bitch goddesses. So there's a whole kind of like portfolio of shows that fall under the Sexy Unique podcast umbrella. But you guys last year in like November of 2019 started talking about this psychic's prediction about what was to come in 2020 and that she saw a virus. And you guys kind of really riffed on it and started talking about like the importance of getting the flu vaccine. And it became this sort, again, it was in a joking way, but it really did become this sort of prophetic omen that really came to fruition.
It totally did. And I still get listeners and like newbies to the podcast who will go back into the archives and then have this like mind-blowing experience where they're like, Lara and Carrie predicted COVID, and then email me about it. So I love that discovery process for them.
Yeah. And I also, what I love about that too as a principle is just like, because this happens to me a lot too. And actually it's interesting because in the same way that I feel your intuition is somehow linked to your creative energy, what I notice a lot is sometimes I'll get in a goofy mood and I'll be joking around with a friend, and in my mind I think I'm just riffing, but then I'll say something that actually does like later come to fruition, or like they're like, oh no, you're actually like you're making a kind of a off-color joke about that friend, but what you don't know is that actually is true of the friend. And so I love when like I love when you don't even know that you're tapped into something, and just by virtue of kind of maybe being a little bit loose or just sort of giving permission to the energy that's moving through you, it actually does give way to information that you don't even know is information at the time.
Totally. My favorite way of doing that And I think it gets to happen on Sexy Unique podcast in particular a lot. And actually, even now that I think about it, it happens on my podcast, Saving Sex in the City 3, where it's just like that podcast is just total riffing on my end. Like I plan nothing and then just kind of go wherever a story takes us. But I feel like I've been able to tap into things with guests that some iteration of that ends up happening either like in the news or on like Instagram or something. And so that's my favorite. It is, creativity is my gateway to all my psychic abilities.
Well, I love that for you. And it's almost like I get these images for you. It's almost like if I were working with you as a client, it's like, how would we support you to actually consciously cultivate that? And it's like, I almost get these images of you writing these like fun little stories for people, you know, where they like come to you with a problem and, you know, you sort of put it into a story or you put it into like a comedic sketch or you put it into a riff and then just see sort of what comes through and like let that sketch just be a metaphor or something like that.
Yeah, that resonates for sure.
All right. Well, just know that I truly support your creative, intuitive energy, and it's my wish and hope that you continue to cultivate it consciously and bring it to the world. The world needs it. The world needs all of our gifts right now.
Thank you. I agree. And I look forward to absolutely continuing this creative gravy train.
So we are here today to dig a little bit into this past season 10 of RHOBH, and perhaps even into the state of the entire franchise of Beverly Hills as well. I don't know where you stand in relationship to the show at this point, but I felt a call to kind of dig into it a little bit deeper because I had such a strange experience of this past season where, on the one hand, I did find myself engaged by what was happening. It felt like there was a lot going on. I found myself excited to tune in every week. I felt like there were high stakes. You know, we had salacious sex rumors. You know, Denise Richards' marriage was on the line. The women were clearly emotionally invested in what was going on. You know, on a surface level, we were certainly getting lots of fights. And then at the same time, when everything was said and done, and I turned around and looked at like the total sum of the season over the course of like 18 episodes, I just couldn't for the life of me fully understand what I had just watched. Like it felt like this sort of tornado that moved through my living room where there were tons of feelings involved, but I just can't quite put my finger on like what exactly was the journey here. Like what was this about? What was at stake on a deeper level? Like I feel like even just going back to the past, for example, like season 3, and I'm assuming you've watched all of Beverly Hills, yes or no?
I've watched almost all of it. During like the Kim Richards years, I was pretty up to speed. And then I took a break, I think when the newer cast members, like when Dorit and Erica Jane came on. And I think there was a season where there was like Pantygate or something like that. I didn't watch that. And I tapped out for a few seasons. And I heard that the show had gotten boring or blah, blah, blah. And then I tapped back in during Puppygate. And I was compelled. And I don't think I've ever not been compelled by Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, because simply from like a wealth perspective and like lifestyle perspective, I find it extremely like intriguing and aspirational to watch because they do that really well on that show.
It is true. It truly boasts wealth. I am intrigued by it. I don't know that I find the lifestyles necessarily. I find the amount of money aspirational, not necessarily the way it's spent.
But you get to see it spent in a lot of different ways. Like every woman has like her own style or like brand going on in a way that they like exploit their wealth. So I like seeing that as opposed to like New York, where it's like, oh, they're very like wealthy, but it's not as showy. It's just like, you know, it's like run of the mill wealth. Like I want to see just like trashy wealth that's like very much celebrated by the people spending the money.
And is there a woman on the show whose use of wealth is most enjoyable to you?
I guess like off the top of my head, I would just say, I think like Lisa Vanderpump's is enjoyable in that I would never have the kind of aesthetic that she has. Like her aesthetic is very confounding and confusing, but then I like also that she has like, 20 dogs at one time, and like the animal element is really great. I think Erica Jane's is probably like the way that I would want to spend that kind of money if I had access to it.
I sometimes wish that Erica Jane gave us more of a glimpse of the world of Pasadena. Because I feel like people have given her crap for living in Pasadena, like the fact that she's not actually in Los Angeles. But, Pasadena, there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of wealth there.
It's gorgeous in Pasadena.
No, it's
like she has, you can have like, there's these like older estates, and it's like it has like more of an old money glamorous feel.
Exactly. And sometimes I wish she were like more involved with like the Pasadena Chamber of Commerce, or I don't know, bring in some of her Pasadena, lady friends into the mix. Cause it feels like there's this whole world there that could be tapped into that's not currently exploited on the show.
Yeah. A Real Housewives of Pasadena like spinoff. I wouldn't be mad at it.
I wouldn't be mad at it either. And I actually feel like that might be a more organic place for Erica Jane at this point in terms of like actually bringing something to the show other than just Erica Jane, which, I have a feeling we'll get into that probably in a few moments. But what I was going to say earlier, though, it's like if you think back to something like season 3, right, where there was this whole rivalry between Brandy and Adrian, and it's like, Brandy was loyal to Lisa Vanderpump, and Adrian tried to get her kicked off the show. So then Brandy fights back by spilling the beans about the surrogacy. So Adrian fights back with a lawsuit. And I just felt like watching, I was like, I clearly understand what I'm watching here. It's like there's a power struggle. Brandy's fighting with her big mouth. Adrian's fighting with her money. I understand how it's dividing the group and people are falling on different sides. It's like it reverberates in this very clear way. Whereas for me, by contrast, this season, it's like even when I try to start feeling into it, and that's why I think it might be interesting to like literally dismantle it woman by woman to see kind of what this conflict was about for each of them. But even when I start to feel into the season, I just like like I literally get a little overwhelmed. Like it just feels like this big sort of dust cloud that it's hard for me to like penetrate or feel into or to even understand just what was going on here on such a fundamental level. But let me check in with you. Like, where are you at with the season? It sounds like you actually found it to be a very engaging and intriguing ride.
I was fascinated by it, but I do feel like things got really repetitive after a while. Like, and I guess that's one of the pitfalls of Beverly Hills that I hear, especially in like the past seasons where the women focus in on one really minute thing and just like wring it out for all it's worth. And so I saw that at play, but it was kind of what wasn't happening that was the most interesting. And like the secrets, things that were being like held back from us as an audience, like, and especially when it came to Denise and Aaron, that was like the most fertile ground for me.
For sure. And I mean, seeing Denise backed up against a wall and watching her usual control mechanisms not work, and then seeing her have to deal with that on the stage of the show definitely was the thing that I found most interesting. But it was kind of like all the drama that organized around it that I found certainly repetitive, but also confounding and confusing, like what each woman's investment and kind of sticking it to her, in fact, was about.
Yeah. Like I didn't understand Lisa Rinna's motivations at all because they started out the season being friends, right? And they have been friends allegedly for years. So it seemed very strange that Rinna is all of a sudden like really coming for Denise. And I feel like her motivations are probably what can I do to make a good show? And so it's less about, I don't think she has a lot like alliances, or I feel like she probably separates like whatever happens on camera versus real life. It's like we're making a show and we're trying to make like the juiciest show possible. So she'll just like execute. You can count on her to execute whatever is going to make for that juiciness. It was wild to see such like a seasoned showbiz professional like lose complete control of the situation and not be able to understand how she comes across on camera, because you don't think of Denise as being like, I just never would think that she would let herself be seen doing such a piss poor job of lying to everyone.
Well, I think that was definitely one of the most revealing things to me, for me over the course of the season. And I actually rewatched a few key scenes last night just to kind of brush up on the season before this. And it was interesting to go back and watch some of the earlier scenes from the point of view of seeing how horrible a liar she became towards the end. Because to me, it was almost comical. Like, she was comically bad at lying.
Yeah. It was like the kind of lying where you're like, just stop now. Like, now would be the point to just like, don't talk about it anymore, or like reroute. But it's like she couldn't help herself but continue the lie. And it felt like she's trying desperately to hide something. But I'm like, what are you really trying to hide here? Like, I don't understand. Like, the jig's up at this point.
Yeah, there's so many, like, for me, reverberations of this conversation as far as Denise goes. But yeah, I mean, the first thing I'll say is just by the end of the season, it did make me realize, like, oh, you are deeply, deeply split. Like, she feels almost young to me, you know, in this place where it's like, kind of like what you're saying, there's no sort of self-awareness as to how she is sort of navigating the situation in a way that hurts her rather than helps her. There's no real self-awareness of how she's coming off. There's no self-awareness as to how she's just sort of digging a hole deeper and deeper. And so that's why I say it just feels like there's this deep, deep, deep split in her. And I think what's interesting about what you just said about Lisa Rinna is, like, I start to wonder if part of the reason why the season was such a mystery to me, and perhaps part of the reason why Beverly Hills feels like it's been struggling for several seasons, because this may be true of the last few seasons, was all of this just truly about the show and the mechanics of the show and being on the show? Because if I think about, like, okay, like, I'm thinking about this as like a screenplay, because I used to be a script consultant and whatnot, so I work with writers. So if I'm deconstructing this, like I'm deconstructing a screenplay, right? To me, there's a core conflict at the heart of each story that everything is like germinating from. So to me, the core conflict here is Denise, right? And it all starts at this barbecue, you know, that she hosts, where there's these comments made about, you know, the threesomes and whatnot. And, you know, I did drop into, when that episode first aired, I dropped in and, you know, what was going on for Denise in this. And I basically got exactly what Lisa Rinna ended up saying, which was just like, Denise felt embarrassed, you know, by last season, like that there is this split in her. Like you asked, like, why is she so controlled? Like, I do think there's a real split in her around what it means to be this sexually free wild thing and what it means to be a good wife and mother and kind of a respectable woman. And actually what I noticed last night is she actually talked about in Santa Barbara coming from like a conservative Catholic background where she was supposed to be good. So to me, it would make sense that there's this compartmentalization between like who I'm supposed to be and sort of this inner wildness. And so I feel like what I got off her is, okay, I'm really embarrassed by what I let slip last season. I want to rein it in. I want to cultivate a different image. And this is where I was really kind of watching it through the lens of having gotten to the end of the season, of understanding now this is kind of a really emotionally immature woman in a lot of ways. Like there's something really young and split in her. So I honestly think in Denise's mind, there's something going on here about like, I just got to present a certain image, you know, and when these women are talking about like the sex stuff at the table, it really is sort of panicking her and triggering her in a place where she wants to control the narrative. And in that place, the truth is she was charged. She was triggered. She was judging the other women, you know, from that place of wanting to present a certain face herself. Yeah. And when the other women picked up on that, she just wanted to shut it down, and which is her MO. And to me, it just feels like that place where she wanted to control her image, and then she wanted to just truly shut down anything that went against that image. That to me is like the nucleus of this season, right? It's the thing that all the other women had issues with, and it's the thing that everything got organized around. Which
True.
Ultimately, I mean, yes, it is about Denise, and it is. It reflects Denise's psychological split and her need to control. And it's also very much about the show.
Yeah, and her not having, or her navigating a world in which she doesn't have control necessarily over her image or how she's presented. Because even on her own reality show, Denise Richards, It's Complicated, now streaming on Hulu, I'm pretty sure, she still was in the driver's seat because it's a show about her. You know what I mean? And revolving around her. So I'm sure she had a lot more say of what gets shown and what doesn't and kind of what the narrative is. And this is her first experience in being like, oh, the narrative is whatever I put out there that can then be warped or used against me in some way. And like that probably freaked her out, and she just like didn't know how to deal with that ultimately.
Right. And this is a woman who seems like she's gotten a lot of mileage out of, you know, telling ridiculous lies and just shutting things down.
And has had like a wild life, like was married to Charlie Sheen and has like kids with him. So she's not like that innocent of a human being.
But even in that, if you look at that, the split is there, right? Because yes, absolutely. She was married to Charlie Sheen. And it's so interesting that if you watch the way that she kind of positions herself in relationship to that, it is as, oh, I'm the normal sane one who protected my kids from this, got out of it. Like, I can always feel there's this mileage she gets out of presenting herself as like, I was kind of the cool, calm, collected, normal one who got out of this chaotic, wild, crazy situation. And I think she does really like to kind of unconsciously alienate in other people who are kind of a little unhinged. Like, I've seen her do that since last season. I remember like at the last reunion, the way that she kind of kept going in on Camille, like, because Camille was unhinged last reunion. And I remember Denise would not drop it. And I just kind of remember sitting there being like, Denise, like, what are you doing? Like, you see this woman is acting crazy. You see she's not in her right mind. So if you are truly the sane, stable one here, there's just a certain point where you back off and you let her do her thing. And there was this way that she kept going in. And I saw her do it to Kyle this year too, like, because Kyle was kind of off her rocker at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And Denise wouldn't let it go. And even at that Santa Barbara dinner that I think kicked off a lot of this stuff, when I was rewatching it, I forgot Kyle did actually apologize to Denise at that dinner. She was like, that's what started the whole conversation. She's like, I want to apologize for my behavior. And Denise, if you go back and watch that, she would not let it go. She kept, and I don't even like Kyle, but I was like, damn, Denise is going in. And I think there is this part of her that kind of likes to poke reactive people because it allows her to in some way disengage from her own reactivity, her own wildness, her own unhinged woman or person.
And feel superior at the same time.
Exactly. She gets to kind of dance with the devil, but not be the one who people point the finger at calling the devil.
Yeah. But okay, what do you make though? I think all of what you're saying is totally on point, but then I think there's like an underlying issue of I felt like there had to be some sort of legal stuff going on between her and Charlie that gets alluded to in the very first episode of the season, like there was an episode where like Erica Jane, her husband, and Denise like talk about Denise needs a lawyer to like fight Charlie for something. And then we never followed up with any of that again. And I thought in the back of my mind, like maybe Denise is trying not to appear so sexual on camera because she's in the midst of like some sort of custody battle, or like her livelihood in some way depends on being like a little more buttoned up or whatever. So that's what she's like fighting tooth and nail to preserve this mommy image.
Yeah. I mean, I would say even if that's true, I still like from a spiritual perspective, I still think it'd be interesting though that I think it's interesting that she calls in, like in the place where we create our own realities, which is something I subscribe to. You know, I think it's interesting that she's calling in a situation in that hypothetical situation where she's calling in a situation where, in a way, her very free spirit and sexuality is like on trial, you know, and then there's a way she has to monitor herself for public consumption. And then I still think the way that she was triggered and charged around it at the barbecue still speaks to like a deeper inner conflict in her, because she could be going through that court stuff. I mean, really, all she would really have to do, especially for someone like her, who we now know is not shy about breaking the fourth wall, all she has to do is say, guys, like, I'm in the middle of a custody battle with Charlie. Can we please, like, you know, cut the sex talk for right now? And I'm sure they all would have shut the hell up and understood.
Yeah, I thought that too. And maybe they've, at a certain point, Denise, I think she definitely just stopped playing ball at a certain point because she kind of like tapped out. But I'm also just like, what a missed opportunity, because Denise is someone I think who has a lot of fans and then a lot of fan forgiveness. Like if she was to come back next season and have like if she could rise from the ashes, yeah, like I would be so down with that.
Well, this leads to a deeper question for me, which is like, can someone like Denise Richards ultimately make, I want to say, for good television? I mean, I think in some ways she made for good television this season, but it's also like in the place, and this is why I was glad to see Lisa Vanderpump go. It's like in the place where she wants to control the narrative, and in the place where she's going to shut things down, even though the other women truly just like beat a dead horse with this, and I think each one was caught up in her own little drama around it, I do understand it's like in that place where Denise is just going to shut shit down when she doesn't want to deal with it anymore. It's like literally the energy in the group just stops and it comes to a standstill. And I feel like essentially what Denise is saying to them subtextually is like, drop it, let's forget it and move on, which I'm able to do because that's my MO in life. But from other people's point of view, it's like, no, we're an ensemble, we're a group, there's an energy that's moving, you just shut it down. And then you're also shutting down our response to being shut down. And now we're left with this stuck, stagnant energy, and we don't know really what to do with this. And so to me, it just kind of feels like the whole energy of the show just stops dead in its tracks. And it just leads me to wonder, can someone like Denise ever truly be good on a show like this, at least long term?
Probably not, because I think you have to have a level of hunger and willingness to go on a reality show in the first place, and you have to kind of be along for the ride in some aspects. Like control freaks are just not going to have a great time on a reality TV show, and I don't think it's conducive to like that type of personality. And Denise is already a star in her own right. Like she doesn't need Beverly Hills to like further her career. If anything, it's like kind of dampened it a little bit or tarnished it. I mean, I'm sure she'll like bounce back and she's fine, but like I think you have to be a hungry team player and down for whatever. And that, I think, is the best energy to bring to any reality TV show. And I think Lisa also, that's why she stopped being fun, is because it's just like the veneer's cracking. We all know like that you're full of shit, but you won't just be like, yeah, I'm full of shit and like, fuck you guys, and play with it or keep fighting. It's like people get so, they like grip around themselves so tightly and aren't willing to like kind of admit mistakes or even play the villain or play into it. And that's where reality TV falls apart for a lot of people.
Which Lisa, by the way? Vanderpump?
Lisa Vanderpump.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that, for me, is one of my concerns with Beverly Hills and why I wonder if it's in a major state of distress, because I actually feel like you've got... I can't help but feel that Beverly Hills in some ways in this major bind right now, because I think the Real Housewives in general walks this line between a rotating cast that keeps things fresh and exciting over the years, and also brand familiarity where, you know, you have your star anchors. And, you know, I think we've learned in the past, if you like, there really is a balance. If you mess with it too much, you kind of lose your audience. And I feel like right now, you know, 3, I would say, of the main players who are really kind of like, who bring on a surface level, I think, a lot to the franchise. And I'm speaking here of like Erica Jane, Rinna, who, stirs the pot, Dorit. They are people who are strongly identified with the show. They kind of are strongly identified with the brand, and yet all three of them, and then in this past season, in addition to Denise, and I would even say in a way in addition to Teddy, they are people who I experience as very controlled and controlling, who aren't willing to put it all out there. And it's like there's sort of so much they're willing to give to the show. And I just continue to wonder, like, as long as there's such a huge corner of the cast that really is unwilling to just put it all out there in the way that a Kim Richards does, and the way that even a Kyle, say what you want about her.
Yeah.
She
Love
puts it
her,
out there.
hate her. She gives it all.
She does. And so, yeah, it's like, for me, it's like, is Beverly Hills just in a bind right now that it can't get out of?
Yeah, they need more people that are willing to put it out there. Because even Garcelle is like, I think she's pretty tightly wound.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, I feel like she has a boundary as far as like, I'll go this far, but like, I don't think you're going to see Garcelle having like any sort of like foolish cringe moments that is what you tune into reality TV shows for.
Yeah. And it's interesting to even think about like, just what is the exact difference between, say, because if I go back to the first season, right, even someone like Adrienne Maloof, like, yeah, I get the sense maybe she's not sharing everything, but there's a way she showed up on the show, and there were things that she was willing to share. I mean, mostly her marriage, that just felt like I'm getting something here that's real. I'm getting something here that's raw, and you do in some way feel surrendered to the flow of the show. Or maybe it's just that maybe it's that people like her and even Camille, who thought, I think in the first season, that she was gaming the show, maybe it's just that they don't have that self-consciousness that some of these other women do. I don't know. I mean, like, what is that distinction? I don't know if you have any hits about that.
I think it's just like finding people who feel really confident about their life and lifestyle and life decisions, and who want attention but are proud to like share what they've learned in life and what their lifestyle is like the sweet spot. Like, I think about my favorite moments or like shows, and it was like Jersey Shore did that really well, where you have just like this ragtag group of people that are like, we've cracked the life code, we live the best lives, we are like unashamed and just like proud to gym, tan laundry, binge drink, and like sleep with anyone who crosses our paths. And like, I think at the beginning of Beverly Hills, you had all these different women. Well, it was kind of like you had all these different women who believed that their individual lifestyles were fabulous. And it was like, they get a lot of attention for that, but then they also get confirmation because the show is like filming them that they are fabulous. And then you had this you had probably half fabulous women and then half like women in a sad state. Like, you had Kim Richards, Taylor, who we found out later, her life is like not all it was cracked up to be, and Camille, who you watched basically the dissolution of her marriage. But it was a good mixture of that. And I feel like now you don't really have, I guess Beverly Hills doesn't really have like the people whose lives are in a sad state anymore. Like, it's kind of all just like, we're so fabulous, we are wealthy, but like, yeah, where are the sad sacks? I think we need a couple, you have to have a couple like wealthy and fabulous but sad people to make it work. Or just like, there has to be like a totem pole.
Yes, exactly. And right now, Beverly Hills feels very horizontal. rather than vertical. And when you say that, what it reminds me of, have you watched OC at all?
I've like tuned in and out, but I'm not like caught up with it, which I think is a mistake because every time I've watched it, it's made me like cackle. And Vicky Gunvalson is truly one of my favorite people in the world to watch on television.
You don't understand that to me is the most validating statement anyone could ever say. Vicky Gunvalson, I don't know if you know this about me. She is my number one favorite housewife of all time. And people don't understand and they get shocked and offended. I'm just like,
no, she's hilarious. Everything she does.
Everything, but both unintentionally and sometimes even intentionally. Like sometimes she's got great comedic timing. I mean, I'm about to go on a Vicky like total digression, but I'll keep it short. But what I love about Vicky too is like talk about somebody who put it all in front of the camera. And this is what I love about the OC women. The OC women are not too big for their britches because, they're not from New York City. They're not Beverly Hills. They are in the OC. Like, this is what they've got going on. So it's like they put it all out there, which is why typically, not anymore, it's been my favorite franchise. And Vicky, though, just to watch her journey of like, in the early seasons, just no self-awareness, so self-righteous, a total hypocrite. And then like by virtue of being on the show and just kind of getting like knocked down a peg, knocked down a peg, knocked down a peg, I think around like season 7 or 8, I started noticing like, oh my God, she's starting to kind of like what you were saying about, she did what Lisa Vanderpump didn't do. She kind of pivoted a little bit and kind of leaned into, yeah, you know what? Sometimes I'm a raging hypocrite. I've got a strong point of view. Like I'm owning it. She kind of got more sarcastic and caustic rather than like on her high horse. And she became legitimately funny. Like I found myself laughing with Vicky on several occasions. So I just want to like, state Vicky's case.
I love that. I'm team Vicky for life. And I think that is like, I'm trying to think of any Beverly Hills cast member who's like cracked that code, and I can't, but feel free to correct me. But I think that to ascend into like iconic Vicky levels, you have to just be willing to be like if Lisa had just been like, yeah, I lied about the puppy. Like I wanted to make Dorit look dumb. If she had just come forward and then kind of laughed about it, it's like it just takes away all the power out of the situation. And then it also contextualizes it where you're like, this is so silly. Like, why are any of us like caring about this? And you get to like, you just have to continue to like mentally game people and be okay with the fact that like you're kind of gonna look insane, but that's what you signed up for.
Well, and it reminds me of like, because as someone who's never been a huge Lisa Vanderpump fan, I remember one of the few times I really liked her. I think this was actually back when they were writing blogs for BravoTV.com, and she was like in the midst of her conflict with Lisa Rinna, I think the Munchausen season, and which I guess you missed. But I
missed that, but I would go back and watch that because I was always like Team Rinna with Munchausen.
You should go back. You should revisit. Well, visit.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not a revisit.
I will visit.
But I remember in one of Vanderpump's blog, there had been some scene Rinna had where basically it was her getting waxed in her bedroom, and Vanderpump just kind of shaded her in the blog, being like, "Oh yeah, it's like thrilling television to watch like Rinna like get her asshole waxed on her dirty like bedroom carpet floor." I don't know, but she said it in a wittier way. But I was like, this is actually like I can get behind this if you're just gonna kind of be bitchy and own it and like outright shade her as opposed to like, just sort of the more underhanded stuff that she likes to do and then act like she's a concerned friend and act shocked when the shit hits the fan, even though she was the one like stirring the pot in the first place. I was like, I could get behind a Lisa Vanderpump who just owns what she's doing and who she is. But those moments are very few and far between with her.
One of my favorite Lisa Vanderpump moments was when she had like put the tabloids about Mauricio cheating on Kyle. Like she took them on their trip to Puerto Rico or something. Mm-hmm. It was a season where Joyce was there and then she got called out for it. And she and Ken just like retreated to their hotel room and they were so furious and chaining cigarettes. And I was like, this is like the glimpse behind the curtain I've been waiting for of Lisa. Like, she never smokes on camera. She and Ken are just like chain smoking and trying to like figure out what to do next. And I was like, there was such a real urgency there and like a humanity that I respected and admired. I think you have to be willing to look like an idiot sometimes.
And I think what a lot of these reality TV people don't understand is that actually, like, humility is ultimately what's going to endear you most to viewers. So the person, I mean, yeah, if you fuck up really bad, if you come back to that reunion, like, honestly willing to take ownership of what you've done and be like, yeah, you know, I did this. I was hurt. I wanted to hurt you. Like, I realized this was wrong. I'm sorry. It's like, you will then become like a fan favorite for actually like showing that level of accountability. And I just think, you know, the double-edged sword of these shows is that these people become almost famous and celebrated for this mask they wear in the world. And then when that gets threatened, I think it's not just about their standing on the show or public perception. I think it's hitting them in really core wound places. So for someone like Elisa Vanderpump, who I've come to believe truly, I don't think she's remotely conscious of what she does. I think it is so unconscious, and that's why she feels so victimized whenever anyone like points a finger at her. So it's like when these people do confront her with her negative intention, I think it hits her in that place where as a young girl, she did split around her experience of cruelty. Like that there was something in her that learned like, oh shit, like I've got to guard and protect my heart. So let me just kind of compartmentalize it. And I'm going to kind of, you know, control the people around me and sort of exact a cruel agenda for my own sense of like power and pleasure. And if you kind of confront her there, it's like fight or flight, right? Because this isn't just about the show. It's also about the way this is reverberating you in a deeply personal level.
Mm-hmm, totally. When you're talking about that, I had like such a moment of Lisa and her mother. And I feel like there was some sort of, I think we've talked about this before too, but I feel like that relationship was really difficult. And that's where she learned that like, all controlling kind of rule with an iron fist, but then also have like a lot of love to give mother element that she then enacts over everyone in her realm. Like she's like the queen mother of her subjects, which are the people that work at her restaurant.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Well, two things. Yeah, I remember that episode of VPR where, you know, she talked about her mother and the Rubik's Cube, right? And I remember
her mother could do a Rubik's Cube and she was a member of Mensa, but that's like the best thing she had to say about her mom. And then it showed like an older picture. And I just got the sense that like they weren't that close or had a really complicated relationship. And it was kind of left at that.
Yeah.
But then when you were talking, I was like, maybe this is like the dynamic that she experienced with her mother that now she is performing on all those around her.
Yeah, that's how I felt when she talked about how clever her mother was and the Rubik's Cubes and Mensa. I remember getting this really deep intuitive hit of like, oh, like, yeah, this is where she learned it. It's like her mother was clever and she enacted that cleverness on Lisa, and now Lisa enacts that cleverness on others. But what I love about what you're saying, the connection I never drew, is I love that connection between Lisa does position herself as the matriarch, as the mother hen. And it's interesting to think of that through line of like how she's reclaiming the mother experience, if we're in fact right, that like she kind of learned all these tricks, you know, from her own mother. It's interesting. What I was going to say earlier, though, just to track back to OC, the reason why I brought it up was even if you think about, so first of all, I just want to invite you, if you are ever needing a TV show, like, and I say this because there's so many people who don't watch OC, and I'm just like, you have got like at least 11 amazing seasons of TV in front of you, should you choose to go down that road. But, you know, it was the original franchise. And
yeah,
what made it work, I realized, part of what made it work, as I heard you talk about kind of the totem pole, is like that was the formula from the beginning. I mean, it was a show that initially started out as like, okay, these are women who are living aspirational lives behind the gates, but it also had like, it consciously included this woman named Lori who had previously lived behind the gates but then lost everything and was now living in like a shitty townhome, and she was literally Vicky's assistant. Like she had to work for Vicky in order to support herself. And then there was this other woman named Jo who was like in her early 20s. She was the one who was originally involved with Slade. I'm sure you've heard of Slade Smiley.
Mm-hmm.
And she was sort of like, he was sort of wanted to mold her into like an OC Stepford wife, but she was like young and rebellious. And so there was just kind of those colors and contrasts that you were speaking to in the different women. And then it also made me think, for example, of like the early seasons of New York and the role that kind of Alex and Simon played. And so I think that you're onto something. I think it's not even so much about like what the individual brings, but rather that template of like, do we have a good like cross section of sort of people, where people fall on the social hierarchy or the totem pole?
Yeah, and even I think about New York this season with bringing Leah in, she kind of was the underdog in a lot of ways, like, or the lowest on the totem pole who then clawed her way up. But it worked for this season. And then I don't know where we'll go without Dorinda, but Housewives of Beverly Hills, you're correct. It's like a horizontal, there's no hierarchy, social or otherwise, so it seems.
And I feel like the problem, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and hearing you speak, I'm officially claiming a position on this. It's a position I've been reluctant to claim before now. This is breaking news, hot take. I think that basically these women have too much to lose, and I'm going to go on record as saying I don't think they should cast actresses anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I felt that way for a long time. Garcelle was making me hesitate because I did enjoy her this season. But like hearing you say, truthfully, she didn't really bring much of herself. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, that is true. She didn't really like put it all out there. And it's like, it's another one. It's like all of these actresses who have these careers and these names before they come on the show. And I think, look, everyone's coming on the show to use it to a certain degree. But like, I think, what is the difference between a Kyle Richards and a Lisa Rinna? It's like, this was Kyle Richards' claim to fame, so she's going to put everything into it. Even a Camille Grammer, this was her thing, so she's going to put everything into it. You have a Lisa Rinna come along or a Denise Richards, and it's like it's not their one thing, and it is a tool and it is a vehicle for them. And I do think it immediately becomes a device of control rather than like I'm willing to put everything into this.
Yeah, or they're playing a different game in the sense that, like, someone like Lisa Rinna, she knows what to harp on to give you the conflict in the scene or something because she's an actress. That's, like, what she does. So maybe that's, like, when they started getting more actresses on the show, that's when it became, like, repetitive harping on, like, some seemingly very, like, mundane thing that would just get, like, rehashed over and over and over because it was like actors thinking about conflict in that way rather than like, oh, let's just move on or like the conversation will flow any which way. I don't know. Exactly.
And let me ask you, do you think that we have gotten the real Rinna?
No, I don't think so. I just think that she's acting. Like when she apologizes to Denise and then starts weeping and saying she needs to go to church and it's very dramatic, I was like, you're acting right now. And it's fun to see, but it's also like, this isn't real.
So here's my follow-up question, though. Do you feel like that scene, for example, is that how do I say this clearly? Is that a role she's performing in her everyday life when the cameras are off? And it's just that she's always acting, and therefore, in a way, we are getting some semblance of the quote-unquote real her? Or is she literally acting just for the cameras?
It might be her in her day-to-day life.
She's so intriguing to me because it's like, because she could sit here and say, well, what do you mean? Like, I put it all out there. Look, I'm putting, like, my daughter's eating issues are out there. I bring my mother on the show. But even all of that, there's a way in which it just feels so like this is what I'm carting out before the camera in order to give you a glimpse of my life. And for me as a viewer, I'm always sort of sitting there trying to feel into like, is this the entirety of your life? And it's just that you yourself are so disconnected from the depth of your like deepest sort of inner workings that it just feels artificial to me, or are there parts of your life in you that you are consciously keeping off the camera?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's maybe she's just been doing it for so long that this is who she is now.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have a sense, like, who do you think Lisa Rinna is? Like, like, I don't know if you get a sense of, like, if I love to play the game of, like, tapping into someone's higher self, or if Lisa Rinna were integrated, do you have any sense of who she is?
I'm trying to, like, feel into it, but I kind of don't. The moment that stuck out the most to me this season in regards to Lisa was when Garcelle brought up her daughter's eating disorder. And I don't think Garcelle articulated it in the way that she, like, I think she brought up a really good point, but the way that it was articulated kind of got, like, lost in the shuffle, where it's like, if you had a mom like Lisa Rinna, who's like has been super fit her whole life, borderline just like very, very thin. She's like body forward in a lot of ways. And you're like a young girl, that is going to affect you some way, shape, or form. Like, there's just no way that when your mom or the leading female influences in your life have a certain way that they are about like food and bodies and stuff, like that rubs off on you. And to see Lisa kind of eschew any responsibility for that, and then have her daughter, like, have that scene with her daughter where she's like, well, Garcelle said this, and then her daughter's like, well, tell her I said fuck off or something. Like, I was like, it feels like you're skirting around the issue or not willing to take any responsibility from like a parental standpoint for that.
Yeah, and there's just a way, honestly, that I feel like she does pimp her daughters out for story. And I feel that way about her mother.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always uncomfortable when her, like, Lois is here, and it's like, okay, cue the orchestra and like the studio audience like cheering. Like, it just feels like you're trotting your mother. It's like Dance Monkey Dance. Like, you're trotting your cute little mother out, for the sake of the
telling
cameras.
her sob story, like her crazy life story, and being like, haha, anyways.
Exactly. And it's like, yeah, exactly. Isn't this cute? Isn't this inspirational? And then, like, she'll always post about her mother on Instagram when her episodes airs. And then, yeah, she's trotting out her daughters. It just, there's something about it that just feels so like, yeah, I will pimp out anyone for this. And then I just start getting curious about, like, one, who are you? And two, like, what is your purpose in life? Like, what's the end game here for you? Because especially for someone like Rinna, it's like she had a certain amount of success as an actress, right? But certainly, didn't land on like an established acting career where she was known, as a talented actress. And so then it became about, I think in a lot of ways, just keeping the fame going, the endorsements, the QVC. And it's like now she's just kind of got this 3-ring circus going where she's juggling all these balls in the air. And it seems like, in her own words, she's like a hustler who hustles. But is that just kind of the end and be all of it for Lisa Rinna? Like, what is her purpose? Like, who is she? What's driving her every day?
Yeah. And what is her legacy ultimately?
It really feels like this feverish hustle. And like, that's kind of all it is. And if the hustle were to drop, what would she be left with?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like she will just hustle until the day she dies, because that's like, she came from nothing, right? And then kind of worked her way into fame and stardom. And so it just seems like that is the name of the game forever.
It's interesting because with her, whenever I've dropped into her, like, I definitely, like, she feels like she's got like what I would call strong Viper energy. And I always just hear the words, it's kill or be killed. And so that's why I think, like, Beverly Hills is perfect for her, because it gives her this outlet of, like, what I always sort of felt from her around the Denise thing was kind of like, oh, you made a little mistake. Like, you kind of flubbed up here. Kind of like, all right, you walked into the lion's den and basically offered yourself up as a piece of meat. Like, you get what you signed up for. I'm going in for the kill because we need to, like, get this show going. And, you know, when I say that though, but like again, I always sort of feel like this show ultimately is a metaphor for kind of these women's underlying psychospiritual patterns anyway. So it's like, I kind of have this suspicion with her that it's always kill or be killed for the sake of her career, that it's always kill or be killed for the sake of like whatever she's hustling. Like, and that it does, as I talk about it, it feels like a real survival thing of like my family's on the line, I'm on the line. And yeah, I guess the last thing I'd say about it, it's almost like when I feel into like, okay, so who is she on her deeper, if this is like a distorted version of her, who is the authentic Rinna? I do get this sense of like this woman who has this destructive energy, but like destruction can also be, there's a higher self to destruction, right? It's like Kali. It's like you tear down so things can be built back up. And it's almost like when I drop in and think about like who is Lisa Rinna in her essence, it's funny because I see these images of her actually sort of dancing. You know, I say it's funny because of like these Instagram videos she posts, but like I see her kind of like almost as this sort of archetypal dark seductive feminine who's like, come into my web, I'm gonna tear you down so that you can like reemerge wholer, or like I'm gonna seduce you into the darkness to know your own shadow so you can know more about yourself. Like, and I just wonder, I wonder in this place where it's like kill or be killed, like that she is someone who has a relationship to darkness, and just right now it's acting out of self-preservation and survival because that's what she learned she had to do, rather than this other current of like, there's something I could really integrate and own here that would actually be of service. Yeah,
I love it. That really ties well into like own it, baby, that slogan of hers. Yeah. I totally see that. And I think that someone like her operates so well in a business like show business in Hollywood is because that's kind of like the name of the game from day one.
And the thing that I think is true too is like she, to her credit, she can really be a voice of reason. Like she sees things, you know, and she names things, and she's insightful and she's perceptive. You know, there is a wisdom to her actually that can sometimes come through. And so, it's even more, you know, I just sort of get the sense again, like I always feel like you can kind of get the flavor of the original Wound. Like with Denise, it feels like, there was a real message she got around like her wildness and her sexuality. And it's like, Denise, you don't do that. And with Rinna, for me, it just feels something there around like really getting cut down. You know, like in that place in her now that's like, it's kill or be killed. It's because like someone really kind of fucked with her in some type of way that just, I mean, I think I've talked about this before on other podcasts. That's why I feel like you didn't see it, but she got so triggered by being thrown under the bus by Vanderpump in the Munchausen season in this way where it felt like she felt so used and discarded. And I always kind of felt like, we're seeing the reason why this is triggering her is that this is an echo of a way in which she felt used and discarded early on. And that's why like ever since then, it's like there's just this unconscious drive of kill or be killed. I'm fighting for my survival. That's how I justify everything that I do. And again, even when I say this, I can feel the pleasure in it. Like part of her loves the game. You know, there's just so much pleasure here for her. So I'm curious, who else are you drawn to in this kind of whole Denise Richards kerfuffle?
I was really drawn to, I guess is the wrong word, but just intrigued by like what purpose she was even serving other than to like come for Denise in Rome. But Teddy Mellencamp truly is the epitome of go girl, give us nothing this past season. And like, if you really think about it, she had no storyline at all other than her, I'm having my like fat camp day and you guys can come or not come. It doesn't matter to me. And then that got blown up into some drama, which I just enjoyed seeing people like berate Teddy. And I don't know what shifted because last season I didn't mind her. I was just kind of like, whatever, like she's fine. And like, I like her, but I don't love her and I'm not offended by her. And then this season, from the moment she came on screen, I was like, I hate this person. And like enjoyed watching people talk shit to her, talk down to her.
It is true. My cruelty never comes out more vividly with the Housewives than when people are dismissing or being mean to Teddy.
I know. What is that? I was like, oh, I get it. I get why people don't like her. And I guess it is just because she brings absolutely nothing to the table.
There's a quality to her that it's definitely fun to watch it get shut down.
Yeah, I think that, like, from what little I know about her background or whatever, like, was she kind of like a wild child, or she was overweight or something, and then she realized it's almost like she was one way, and then she realized in order to like exist in this world that I was born into, I actually have to be this way. So she like got really restrictive and like lost all this weight, and now is like, this is the way that like I crack the code. This is the way like it's meant to be, and if you follow what I do, then you can do it too. But it's like she shut down her own individuality and like interesting qualities in order to like fit in, do what she thought would be like fitting in. But I guess that might be like why it bumps up against everyone, because it's just like, you're not actually like this. And then also what I was really loving, which I'm pissed that we didn't get to see on the show, was like when her app or like the inner workings of her like fitness lifestyle stuff came to the surface, of how she just like has these coaches that I guess like verbally berate you over text and like tell you to follow like a restrictive diet of like lettuce cups, and then like call you a fat ass if you can't do it, which I was like, that makes so much sense. Like that's what Teddy is doing to herself from day one.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about it, it's like, I'm always sort of looking at like the deeper pattern underneath the specific thing. And so what I'm always drawn to with Teddy is the fact that I think this speaks in part to what you're saying too. It's like she's literally made a career out of holding women accountable. I always just get this sense with her about like, that is a lot of what's driving her, is about holding the woman accountable. I have to imagine something to do with like inner conflict around her mother. Like, I need to hold women accountable for what they've done. Because then if you think about like, you look at like her and sort of the conflict that's followed her, like even if you go back to Puppygate, right? Her involvement in that originally was about punishing and shaming Dorit and, you know, holding Dorit accountable for what she did. And then it turned, right, when she wanted to hold Lisa Vanderpump accountable. And there's just always that charge in her about like, you've got to answer for what you did. And so I do always just think it's fascinating that she's literally built a career out of holding women accountable for like their words and their actions.
But don't you think that that's just reflective of like how she treats herself on a day-to-day basis? Like at the end of it, the person that she's constantly riding and holding accountable for all their mistakes is her.
Yeah, but to me, it's almost like another wrinkle in the like, you know, in the hologram. I mean, I've felt around her a bit, just kind of like just seeing what I can pick up on. I kind of almost get this sense of like Teddy as this like daddy's girl who got a lot of sort of, you know, attention from dad and loved it, and almost like mom felt competitive or in some way resented her for it. And then it's like she got sort of messages about something being wrong in her own energy and kind of feeling like split from mom in that place, and then sort of internalizing that there's something wrong with her and her loving energy. And so that she has to like compartmentalize it, but then also sort of feeling this sort of rage around the woman who sort of comes in and cuts her off from herself. So, I mean, I just sort of offer this as like, these are kind of themes that I've felt like possibly playing in the fringes as we discuss kind of like her relationship to like women, her own femininity, her own womanhood. That all feels at play here.
I just think it's like Teddy kind of conformed to, I think, what she thinks as like being the ideal woman means and looks like. But I think you would see a different interpretation of that were she not born into like a famous family.
And when you say that, I think what's so interesting about it is that she's also at odds with it, right? Because I mean, well, you didn't see her first season, but like there was a lot of like she came on kind of being like, I'm the anti-glitz, I'm the anti-glam. There's been a lot of conversation about how she's sort of uncomfortable being a girly girl. There's a lot of conversation about her sort of manly walk. I always think it's so interesting. Her name's literally Teddy, which is traditionally a boy's name. So there's always kind of been this motif and theme for me with her about somehow being at odds with her own femininity. And it's like, as I'm listening to you speak, it almost feels like there's like a few different layers. It's like there's who Teddy would actually be if she had just been allowed to kind of blossom on her own, right? And I think there was like a wound there, but then layered on top of that, it's almost like who she hears she's supposed to be as a woman from like society and culture and family. And it feels like there's a wound there. It feels like she's just torn now between so many different images that she doesn't even know where she falls in all of this, and that it's a source of major rage and agitation.
Yeah, because she's pretty glammed out now. Like she seems like she's done the hair and makeup thing.
That's what's so weird. So when she first came on the show, she was very much like, this was part of what was so annoying about her. And I guess maybe we are starting to identify what it is. It's the same kind of thing when she came on at the beginning of this season, was like, I don't care if you guys come, when clearly she cared. But
she cares. You don't start a business about like weight loss and like make that a huge part of your identity if you're not deeply invested in what you look like.
Well, also, but like saying to the women, I don't care if you come, it's like to even put that out, it's like you are doing the thing that you were accusing Denise of later in the season. Like you're trying to pretend that you're being casual about this when in reality you aren't. Like you do care. So stop trying to pretend that you don't care. But
yeah,
I think similarly when she first came onto the show, she was just I'm not into the whole glam thing. I'm not comfortable with that kind of stuff. And that was kind of like the part she played. And it felt kind of disingenuous. And actually, she and Erica really butted heads her first season. And I always felt it was because they were seeing something of like, they were seeing their disowned selves in each other. So Erica was hugely triggered by Teddy's kind of like, I'm just like a lost lamb in the woods, like amongst wolves. And like Erica couldn't stand that sort of posture of helplessness. And then Teddy was triggered by Erica's kind of like diva, basically. And I always felt like they are like, Erica is externalizing Teddy's disowned diva, and Teddy is externalizing Erica's disowned kind of place of helplessness and vulnerability. But that's all a digression. To come back, Teddy kind of came in being like, I'm just this lost little lamb and I don't do glam. But then it's like she came back and suddenly she had gotten a stylist. She's doing the hair, she's doing the makeup. And it's just weird because it's kind of like what I was saying before. Either way, it never feels right. It's like when she's sitting there posturing as like the outsider, it's like something about this feels affected. But also now when you're doing this glam thing, this also feels affected too. And it's sort of like you're swinging from one affectation to another. And it's just like, where is the real Teddy here?
Yeah, I don't know.
I
have no idea where the real Teddy is.
I want your answer. Who is the real Teddy? Should I drop in?
The real Teddy, is like probably like a girl that would live in like Arizona or something like that.
That's what I was saying. I'm seeing, like when I drop in the real Teddy, I see someone who honestly, this makes total sense, has both strong, what I would call feminine and masculine energy. And I see her like on the land, like not in Beverly Hills, living on a ranch, like cowgirl sexy, unpretentious, like a pair of jeans that fit great, like a button down work shirt that fits great. She's dealing with horses. She's like in the earth, but she looks good doing it. And it just feels like it's this middle ground between, like, she's in her strength and her self-possession of like, like I'm kind of an A-type personality. I'm running the household. I'm strong. And I'm also this, sexy blonde woman who looks good in a pair of tight jeans. And now I'm getting on my horse, and that she's with a guy who's kind of maybe equally like also sort of in his masculine and feminine energy. Like it just feels like this middle ground as opposed to these different parts she plays, almost like a kid playing dress up.
Totally. I see that too. I'm like feeling like a ranch in Flagstaff could really be like a great solution for Teddy.
Totally. And then at the end of the night, they like crack open a like Coors, you know, and like sit on the porch.
They get the fire going, or like sit on the porch, watch the sunset, maybe go for a sunset ride.
Yeah. I do feel like in terms of her skin in this game of the season, for me, kind of when I tracked back, it felt like where she got very involved sort of was that moment, particularly at the Santa Barbara trip, where Denise just kind of finally shut things down and was like, I'm not going to talk about this anymore. It felt like that was the moment where suddenly Teddy was like, hey, you are judging us and you're not owning it and you're trying to control the narrative. And when I drop into it for her, I really think a lot of this has to do with Teddy's awareness of how she was perceived, like coming onto the show, that she was labeled a control freak, that she was labeled judgmental. And I think the way that hit her and hurt her. And then seeing like someone, Denise, kind of breeze in the next season, be a fan favorite, be celebrated. Like, I think there's sort of a voice in Teddy of like, hey, this isn't fucking fair that like she comes on, like she just has this great first season. Everyone loves her. And then in that place of kind of resentment, competition, and jealousy, when she starts to see like, wait a second, it's a lie. Like, you know, I'm labeled the rigid, judgmental one. You're labeled like the easy breezy, casual one. Everyone loves you. It's not fair. And again, here's that voice again. I'm going to hold you accountable. Like, you are judgmental too. You are controlling too. And I need to expose this and sort of make you pay for it. And I think it's interesting because it's again another thing that to me is ultimately in a lot of ways about the show itself.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that.
I'm curious, as someone who's sort of popping back in last season and as someone who seemed to kind of enjoy these past two seasons, where are you in terms of Erica?
I like her. I'm not like, I think she brings a lot of like glamour to the show.
And did you have any thoughts just about her reaction to the Denise situation?
What was her reaction?
She was pretty pissed. I mean, she got into it with Aaron.
She was pissed. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She got into it with Aaron. The whole Aaron thing was really just the way that Denise like really wouldn't let him kind of be paraded in front of the women for very long. Like, because I think Denise knows that Aaron will shoot himself in the foot or something. Like, he truly, I could have gone for way more Aaron because he was like a scary force and like a dark force. I don't see him as like a beacon of light. Do you? I mean, I don't see him. I'm even like, how, like, I don't understand. I don't even see him as like paternal necessarily.
I think I rewatched the barbecue scene last night, and what I got off, because I do sense him, I've tended to sense him as someone who really, like, he's obviously, he's got this strong, powerful body. I've kind of always sensed him as like a guy who's got a lot of strong, powerful, masculine energy that he feels like he's got to tame, and that it's really important for him to be like a good guy, like a good stepfather, a good husband. I'm a good guy. And I know some people were kind of like, but how do you square that with like how he behaved at the barbecue? And when I was rewatching it, it's almost like what I felt off him was kind of like in this place where I'm the good guy and I'm here for Denise and I'm a good, you know, husband and stepfather. This is my moment to shine where I'm going to come in and protect her and defend her. And I almost feel like when Denise then started to kind of like boss him around, it's almost like she butted, like on the one hand, she is the vehicle for this place where he wants to be like the good knight in shining armor. But then when she cuts him off there, it's almost like he's like bumping up. It's like, it's almost like the voice I hear is like, no, you don't get it. Like this is the role I'm supposed to play. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. You're kind of stepping on my toes here. And so then that triggered like the place where he's controlling and he's got this image that he's managing. Suddenly the very woman that like he's sort of like using to project that image is getting in the way of the image. And I think that's sort of why we saw him kind of really like getting pissed at her, because it's like this place where he was getting thwarted in a way.
Yeah, totally. And then has to like hold on to it for like all it's worth, or is like when he got like kind of threatening with her or whatever.
Yeah. And it makes sense because I do think there's a way he emasculates himself. I think he cuts off his own strong energy. And so I would imagine, especially again, the way he's in this household of women and the way that he really kind of shows up for them, I have to imagine something about this was perhaps learned from a woman of like, I've got to keep my energy down for the sake of like women and their safety and their comfort. So if there is something in him that unconsciously has felt like if he emasculates himself now because he got emasculated by a woman, I can imagine that when Denise comes in, you know, who again is the woman he's meant to be protecting, and she shuts it down, it might trigger something very young and old in him. And that's where we see him being like, I am going to crush your hand. It's funny because, you know, the women, you know, a lot of people were like, oh my God, it's abusive. I honestly, like, the energy behind it to me didn't feel particularly scary. And when I actually say it right now, it almost feels like a 5-year-old. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to crush your hand, mom. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of more what it felt like to me. But I don't know. Did you feel it was like dark and abusive?
It felt that way, just the way that he was edited, I think. And like the way that scene was edited, it probably came across like that. Like I was just like, something is off about him. And maybe it is, he's just shoving, like he's so hyper masculine that it is what you're saying, where it's like he feels like he needs to temper that. But it would be okay if he just like ran naked through the woods and like chopped down a tree.
That's how I feel. I feel like that's who, yeah, exactly. And maybe I'm wrong.
Like he needs to be outside doing like hardcore physical labor to like get all of that out of his system.
I mean, that's
instead of like integrated into like a Hollywood family.
Yeah. I mean, and what you just said, I mean, that's how I feel about Jax too. I feel like there's some of these men where it's like, you just need to be like, you need to be doing things that like are embodied and like physicalize and direct your energy, because you've got a lot of strong energy. And if you're not moving it through your system in some way, yeah, I do think it starts to get thwarted and build up. And, you know, maybe I'm not, maybe I should be taking more seriously like the depth of his rage, and maybe it is. I guess the place in me that feels like he's so intent on being a good guy, I'm just like, I don't think he's ever going to actually do anything, but maybe that's me looking at it through rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, I mean, his whole profession is what, like healing, right?
Yeah.
So it would be a real dichotomy if he was like abusive, but then hiding that in order to have this career as a healer. He probably is just like intense about his career, and then, like you say, fighting that energy, but in fighting it comes across as like more intense than it actually is.
But I will say, I mean, I think those dichotomies certainly do exist. I feel like maybe part of it too is that it's just hard for me to imagine. Like Denise just feels like she's so calling the shots that it's hard for me to imagine her in like an abusive relationship. But again, you know, maybe that's my naivete. Like I'm not an expert in these dynamics. Yeah. All right, well, let me ask you, final verdict on this season. I mean, I feel like we've kind of I mean, we didn't even get into the Brandy Glanville of it all, and the sex rumors and the...
Oh my God, yeah. Is Brandy making a play to come back onto the show?
I think that's always in the back of her mind. My vibe on Brandy, honestly, is I think she really gets hurt by these people. Like I think there's something so vulnerable about her. And I do believe that Denise, like kind of whatever they did, whether they slept together, fooled around, and I do believe Denise then cut her off, because, you know, we see Denise shut things down, just like Lisa Vanderpump kind of like withdrew from her. And I think Brandy just gets so hurt and feels so rejected, and then she just goes scorched earth. And there's just something in her that wants to make people pay. It's like, you're not, I mean, it's total Glenn Close energy from like, I will not be ignored. You're not going to get away with this. So I think, you know, in the place where multiple things can be true at once, I don't know that she had like a calculated agenda to get back on the show, but I think in the place where, you know, she, you know, had an axe to grind and things to say, and she was deeply, deeply, deeply hurt. And also, hey, there's this opportunity to kind of play into the dynamics of the show. It kind of felt like maybe it was like a perfect storm for her.
Yeah. Yeah. She has like she wants justice, but the way she goes about getting it is like, can be really entertaining, but then also doesn't get her the kind of justice that she's seeking.
I'm willing to go on record at this point and say that for me, Brandi Glanville's crossed the line into like, I don't think I enjoy watching what you bring anymore. Like, it just feels like I'm watching someone a la Kelly Dodd on OC, a la like Dorinda. Like, I just feel like I'm watching someone who's mentally unwell. And this is just, I don't know what that line is for me, but she's on the other side of the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she had a very like unwell vibe this season, particularly.
But in the place where, again, like I'm always just looking at the sort of the deeper patterns, it is so fascinating to me that like, because what's crazy about this season, and again, kind of looking at it from a storytelling perspective, the sex stuff really had nothing to do with anything. It was like this separate plot element that like really was only tangentially related to what the women's issues with Denise were in the first place. So the fact that this even came to the surface in the way that it did, as someone who's just kind of holding space for Denise, I'm just like, it's so fascinating that this, like, again, this sort of salacious sexuality came to bite you in the ass when it really had no place on the show. Well, and this was part of my question in the first place of just like, what was this season about? It was always so hard for me to understand what was the big deal. Like, why was this being trotted out? I mean, I guess ostensibly what they were saying is, Denise is claiming she's not close with Brandi, aka that she didn't talk bad about the other women. So we're bringing this up because this proves you were actually close with Brandi, aka you did actually talk about us, which means you're lying now. So really what we're claiming this is about is that you said mean things about us behind your back and you're not owning it. I mean, is that what the crux of all this was?
I think it was like, you presented as this like openly sexual, like adventurous person. And then this season came around and you were being very prudish and judgmental when we kind of met you at that level. And then we felt judged and you denied that you even were this kind of sexy person, or like identified a boundary that still to this day doesn't make that much sense around like your sexuality and sexual preferences. And then we find out that you have had like a threesome with this person, or not even a threesome, but you like hooked up with this other person, but then are potentially were trying to hide it from your husband. So like, how are you a liar? Are you, where's the honesty here? And then on top of that, like, you talked shit about all of us and then are saying that you're not even close with this person when we have receipts to prove that you are. So you're just like a liar and a hypocrite. But she'll never own that. So it's like the conversation, the fight can't go anywhere because she won't even give up like any part of it. She won't say, yeah, I fucked Brandi, or like, yeah, I didn't want my husband to find out, or yeah, I talked shit about you guys to her. Like, it's like, if she had just said one of those things, then it would have given it, I think it would have changed the outcome, but she didn't admit to any of that. So it was just like, oh, you're kind of a liar and you're crazy a little bit as well.
So basically what we have here, you know, is so we essentially have a woman, Denise, who's just truly shut down, a control freak, a horrible liar, you know, won't take responsibility for herself. And then a group of women who are like, rather than just having kind of a normal, sane response of like, okay, God, like this is what it is. Let's just like walk away. Like, we know who she is now. Instead become like intent on like nailing her to the wall. And I mean, I guess that's the season in a nutshell.
But then also realizing that they can't nail her to the wall because she has more bargaining power than any of them, because she's an actual movie star and can like leave at any time or like call the shots. Yeah, it was like a reckoning of like, how accountable can this person be held? They don't even play by our rules ultimately.
But then also the question that I've had this whole time, it's like, why do they care about nailing her to the wall in the first place? You know, and it's like, I mean, I think we've identified, I think it is different actually for each woman, but like, I think, you know, Lisa Rinna kind of producing the show, it's kill or be killed. Who else? Teddy, I feel like there was a strong dose of like, I want to hold you accountable for actually being controlling and judgmental because I'm jealous and resentful. I think with Erica, we didn't go deeply into this, but I think she felt really set up. Like, and I think there's something about being set up for Erica, like that strikes like a really core wound in her. And then I guess for Kyle, I've always posited that for Kyle, everything goes back. It sounds so ridiculous to say, but everything goes back to Teddy's event. And I think that like she was so triggered by Dorit being late because Dorit had boundaries. And I think that boundaries trigger Kyle because she grew up in a situation where she was not allowed to have boundaries. And I think in the place where she's not allowed to have boundaries, she tells herself a story. I'm a good mom. I'm a good friend. I'm a good employee. This is what you have to do. So I think when Dorit comes in and sort of breezes through, it just triggers something so deep in Kyle. And then I think like Kyle's good girl, basically. And then I think when Denise comes in, it's like, God, Kyle, like what's the big deal? Who cares? I think for Kyle, that really hits her in this place of like, in this place where she's like, I'm being a good girl. See me. Like, see me. It makes her so angry. It's like, and then I think for Kyle, it becomes, I'm going to make you pay for not seeing me. And I just felt that all season that basically Kyle wanted to make Denise Richards pay. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Did you have like theories?
No, I think that tracks. And I think like Kyle takes pleasure in like the humiliation of others where she can get it when she's not hell-bent on just humiliating herself over and over subconsciously.
Where do you land on Kyle just in general? I'm curious.
I want her to stay on the show. I enjoy watching her, but I also don't like trust her.
I've been really ambivalent about her over the years. I feel like she comes from a background of actual like emotional richness and depth and horrors, like when you think about her childhood. And that part of her I find intriguing. And it's also a place where I actually have a lot of compassion for her. But I feel like, so whenever we're in the Kim Richards of it all, the family dynamic of it all, like I'm kind of all aboard the Kyle train. But I think the problem with her is that it feels to me like she got really stunted around like junior high and high school. And it feels like that was almost the dynamic of their household of like collusion, social politics, who's on whose side, which is why I think she gets such a charge out of like her special friendship with Teddy. And so to me, it's kind of like when she's not in the thick of the family drama and she's just sort of like, at sea in her life, she feels so kind of like high school girlish to me that I'm just like, this is so boring and shallow and uninteresting and you're so emotionally immature. And that's the place where I'm like, I could like have you off my screen forever. But then it's like, when the family comes back into it, that's where I'm like, oh shit, no, like let's, I want Kyle here. I want this. So there's that split in her.
It's a good mixture. I think they've realized that they need to have like more than one Richard sister on the show to kind of justify Kyle's existence.
Kim was so good for the show.
Kim is so good. I hope she comes back. I would love if Kathy came on the show, which I think was a rumor. I don't know if that's actually happening.
I heard she's coming on as a friend.
Yeah, I think the more Richard sisters, the better. Because they will enact their own totem pole, whether we like it or not. Because that's just like their nature with each other.
God, if we got all three of them at one time.
That's explosive.
I guess my last question would be like, are we arriving at a place in these different Housewives franchises where what is really needed in order to recapture the original magic is like just starting over with like different casts?
Maybe, but I don't even know how you do that at this point. Like, I don't think you could recast Real Housewives of New York. Like, I think that's so... when I think of Housewives of New York, like I think of Luann and like Ramona, and I think of like Sonia and Harry Dubin, and like it just, I can't imagine a world where that isn't somehow peppered into the mix. But you could do like Real Housewives of Albany.
Well, I was going to say, could you ever envision a world where there's so like Real Housewives of New York is still going and then they create a second Real Housewives of New York cast?
Yeah, they could do Real Housewives of like downtown or something like that and have like, I mean, I think that they should be doing way more Housewives and way more like niche zones.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm glad they're
doing Salt Lake City.
Yeah, which I'm so excited about. Yeah.
When does that start? That starts
soon. I think November. Yeah.
Okay. Like that is interesting to me. I would love more Southern Housewives. I thought that they should have done a Real Housewives of Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Instead, they did that like Sweet Home Oklahoma show, which I never really watched. But
I always wanted a like a Florida, not Miami, like a Florida, like a Tampa or an Orlando or something like that.
Tampa would be great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, that'd be good. I'm glad that they are finally embracing like a more niche city like Salt Lake City, because that's where I've wanted them to go. Or even like I'd be interested in like a Housewives of Denver or something like that. Or like
love Denver. I would love Chicago. I know does Married to Medicine take place in Chicago?
I don't know.
No.
I think it's Atlanta. I think there's an Atlanta one. There's an LA one.
There was one show that took place in Chicago, but I would love like a Midwestern Ohio, I think could be really rich.
Yeah, like any place that's like it's not super like urban, but I mean again, Salt Lake City fits this bill, like, but is kind of surprisingly like, no, there's a city there and there's like, you know, people who live in that city and like because that's my thing, you know, I think a lot of people always discount Orange County and they're like, oh, I don't want to watch Orange County because I don't like Orange County. And for me, I was always like, no, Orange County is my favorite franchise because I've never lived and I never will live in Orange County. Like I grew up on the East Coast. I live in Los Angeles. Like I want to see the worlds that I don't know about. That's what's interesting to me as a viewer. So kind of anything. Yeah. Maybe that's something one day you can channel. You can channel the future of the Real Housewives, its permutations going forward, and sort of when and where it will all come to an end, and see what your creative psychic intuition reveals to you.
Honestly, I'm apprehensive and / worried that it's like we're all hurtling towards that end a lot faster than we think we are.
I know. I worry about it too.
Like, I think that in the next 5 years, we could reach the end of like this era of reality television.
Well, we just have to maintain hope it will usher in a new
era. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to kind of conclude, I would say I'm going to claim for myself that when I look back on this season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I think that Beverly Hills is suffering from a horizontal cast of actresses who have too much to lose, who are too controlled, and as a result, we are kind of getting season after season that is very much about the mechanics of the show. It's very much about like narratives that want to be molded. And even though I do think the show still stays interesting because of like the milieu and the personalities and what's at stake, I'm declaring for myself that I do think Beverly Hills is in a bit of a state of emergency. Okay, this is the last thing I'll say. It's just so interesting to me that it really feels like it is in this bind because it's doing well in the ratings too, you know, and that's what I'm saying. And then you've got these cast members who are mainstays of the cast. And so it's like, on the one hand, a lot of viewers are really frustrated and like sort of over it and want to shake up. But on the other hand, Bravo has no real impetus to shake it up. And so it's just so fascinating to me that it just feels like the show itself is in a bind, and then season after season, whether it's like Lisa Vanderpump like fleeing the scene or Denise Richards fleeing the scene, season after season, the cast itself feels like it's in a bind, and the show has just sort of been stuck in this place of paralysis for seasons. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah, it would be in the network's best interest, I think, to figure out what the viewers need instead of just giving them what they want and like taking a risk. And because Bravo's been so good at doing that, like that was like the whole impetus of Housewives in the first place. So I don't know. I hope that they get on it and stop resting on their laurels and resting on the knowledge that some of us will always watch these shows no matter what happens.
Oh my God, I'm such a part of the problem.
We all are. It's okay though.
We're all in it together. Lara, it has been such a pleasure having you here to lend your insight and your hot takes. Any last thoughts on Beverly Hills before we say goodbye to you?
I agree with our totem pole theory. I think we formalized a really good. I think we started out with a hypothesis that we then formed into a theory that can be applied for any Bravo execs that happen to be listening. Take that into account. And I so enjoyed coming on your podcast. Thank you for having me. Oh,
it was my pleasure. Thank you for being here. Where should people find you if they want to know and hear more, as they should? You can find me on social media at Lars Marie, and then you can find my podcast that is releasing new episodes every Thursday right now. It's Sexy Unique Podcast across all podcasting platforms. And there's 11 different seasons for you to choose from, whatever your journey is. You can listen to me talk about Gallery Girls. You can listen to me talk about Rock of Love or Vanderpump Rules. There's a lot of different places that we go. And I'll just say one of the reasons why I love your podcast so much is that it's not only genuinely laugh out loud funny, but you are not afraid to take these shows seriously. You treat them with the seriousness that I feel they deserve. And, you are not afraid of deep critical thinking applied to reality television. Thank you. I think it's a mirror for our time, and it's something that we should be taking very seriously. Oh, I mean, I know we're at the end. I have so much to say about that, so maybe that can just be saved for another day. But yes, I mean, look, this is what our culture is producing. So by virtue of its existence, it is a reflection of something in us, and by virtue of that, we should be taking it seriously. And yeah. Reality TV is literally why we have the president we have right now. And my other thing too is just if scripted television had been consistently great, there wouldn't have been the space for reality TV to emerge as it has now. And I don't think it's a coincidence that reality TV preceded the golden age of television. I think there's a real kind of yin and yang to reality TV kind of stepped up scripted TV's game. Totally. I agree with that 100%. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I can't wait to see you next time.